Okay, hello everyone. My name is Francesca Dubrock and I'm the Chief Curator here at the Anchorage Museum. I would first like to acknowledge that the museum is situated on Dena'ina Ethnena, Dena'ina homelands, and we are grateful for centuries of Dena'ina care and for ongoing Indigenous leadership and stewardship of Alaska's beautiful lands and waters. With that, I am delighted to introduce our artist this afternoon, Myesha Callahan Freet. Myesha Callahan Freet is a visual artist currently based in Chugiak, Alaska. She earned a BFA from the University of Houston in Texas. Her artistic practice encompasses photography, performance, writing, and alternative process. Often working in collaboration with her family, she focuses on deeply personal themes stemming from an exploration of the evolution of self through her roles as a mother and wife. Myesha will be sharing 4 short performances with us today, along with her family. And I just have to say, this is the first time someone has ever done performance for one of our virtual artists studio shares. So we're really excited about seeing Myesha's work today. And my understanding is that these are performances that are sort of in progress sketches of the final version. So the way we're going to arrange this is Myesha is going to be upstairs with us for a little bit, and then she's going to go downstairs into her home studio to do the performances. While she's performing, we're going to just keep the flow to not interrupt with questions. But if you have questions, please type them in the chat. And once Myesha is done performing, she'll come back to the computer and answer questions. And as you all know, one of the great joys of this virtual program is the ability to really interact with artists and ask questions. So any and all questions welcome. We really love to have as much audience engagement as possible. So with that, I will turn it over to Myesha. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Francesca. Before we get started with performances, I would like to talk about my current project entitled Share the Load. Are we going to put a slide up? So Share the Load is a call to mothers to release items from their children that they've been saving. It's really asking people to practice the art of letting go. We spend so much time putting emotions on items and we save them. And this is just I'm asking the audience to question, why are we saving these items? I had the opportunity to sit at the museum several times and introduce myself to mothers that were walking in, explain the project to them. I had mothers dropping items off to me. I collect these items in person and via a PO box. So these are from women all over Alaska so far, and one from the lower 48, which is really exciting. And then we can show, these are some examples of items that I've collected from mothers that people can relate to and just kind of question, like, why am I keeping these things? This project came up for me because I've been saving my son, who is 16 now, all his cowboy boots. And I realized, oh, I could have donated these and somebody else could have done something with them. So I felt like it was just a really selfish act. And I just wanted to really just keep asking myself these questions of, why do I have this stuff? So I'm using scanography, which is I take the items and I put them on a flatbed scanner, and which gives them that dreamlike quality. These are all distant memories to mothers, and I really enjoy that part of it. So now we can talk about performance and get that started.
Myesha, should we also note that that project is going to be exhibited next year? Just so for
it'll be, so I've shown 4 pieces this past December at Bunnell and Homer. In September, I will show 4 more pieces. And then next June, my goal is to have 35 to 40 pieces showing. So I'm just in collection mode right now.
Lovely. So people who donate may have a chance to see their items on exhibit. Yeah. Okay, go ahead with your discussion about performance. We're putting the address where folks can send items to Myesha in the chat here for anyone curious to donate.
Thank you, Fran. So I stumbled into time-based performance just being such a large part of my practice because I want to sit with these questions that I keep asking myself. I think that we're all performative creatures, and I'm constantly asking myself, why am I doing something? And as I'm growing as an artist, I'm asking my family to be a part of this and really flesh out these roles that we're all performing for each other. And just asking the audience to sit and see how long you can sit during these repetitive ritualistic moments. So I will shimmy downstairs and we can get started. We're ready, Fran?
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, so give me one moment.
Okay. And for those listening, we're just putting some links in the chat to Myesha's website and also to the Anchorage Museum blog post about her work, so you can learn more. Okay, so I'm now going to introduce the first performance, which is called Trial and Error. Trial and Error explores the process of experimenting with various methods of doing something until finding the most successful. Radical accountability and acceptance for mistakes made and intentional forgiveness from others. Okay, so while they change out the scene, we're gonna wait for them to get ready for the next performance, and then I'll introduce that once they're all ready. Okay. So this is called Through Hoops Revisited from the artists. We make every effort in love. This second iteration demonstrates the process required of caretakers. The repetition speaks to the ritualistic nature of motherhood and partnership, two separate but simultaneous roles. It is the personification of change and the willingness to perform. All right, and now we have Through Hoops Self-Inflicted, a demonstration of unintentional moments. What does it look like when we create our own obstacles? Now we have the substitutes. Substitute, a person or thing acting or serving in place of. Over time, the demands of nurturing shift, but the desire to nurture persists. This is an exploration of a loving momentum. More. 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 Okay, so I think now Myesha is going to head upstairs and join us back at the desk. So now is a great time to throw questions for Myesha in the chat. If you have any about what you saw in the performances or just in general about her practice or any of the other projects that you're curious to know about. Yay, you've got to be tired.
A little bit.
All the jumping through hoops. Well, that was really wonderful. Your family is a well-oiled team.
Thank you.
Thank
That was
you.
fun.
Thank you for sharing with us. That was amazing. It was so fun to watch performance. for one of our live streams. I've never had that treat before. So we don't have any questions from the audience yet, but seeing these 4 kind of sketches back to back, and knowing some of your other work just made me curious to hear a little bit about how you prototype performances, how you come up with the concepts. I know you work really collaboratively with your family as well. So just be curious to hear about the process about how these sketches are sort of coming to life.
Yeah, so we can start with trial and error, which is the first one. I wanted to just imagine what it would look like to tally all the mistakes that I've made as a mother and as a wife, and what would that look like? And although I've made these mistakes, this is about trial and error and how I'm trying to just become a better person. Therefore, I'm a better wife and a better wife and better mother, along with having to have Vassar and Christian accept me as I am, forgive me, and we move on. And then the next one, through hoops, that is just talking about the roles that I take on myself and how it can easily run you ragged, but I will keep on doing that. And then the self-inflicted talks about the roles that we throw up on ourselves, by ourselves, no matter how crazy it makes us look and how tiring it is. And I hit my foot on the wall. That's okay, because you just keep going.
Yeah, you were working hard.
Yeah, so my work is just, it's really about performance and caretaking, and what does that look like to me, for me. And the substitutes is I fully recognize Vassar is about to leave and I'm still in a nurturing mode. I have all these plants to take care of, and those are all my personal plants, a ton of them. And it's easy to keep wanting to stay in that nurture mode, although we have to let them go.
So when you are kind of conceptualizing these performances, do you bounce ideas around with Christian and Vassar and say, okay, like my concept is to have you like cover me in plants, and then might they like suggest a shift or like a way to edit the performance, or are you kind of more in the director's seat? Or do they ever?
We all take our turns in creative directing, but mostly for all of these, I'm like, okay, I have this idea. This is what I want to do. And, you know, sometimes everyone's gung-ho, and sometimes we'll get into the performance space and realize, oh, it's not going to work. And so then we have to go back to the drawing board. So performing these right now is really wonderful because we've never, besides the through hoops, we've never done any of these. And I can tell, oh, will be lovely once we put them in video form, like our other performances, because it's pretty seamless and everyone is in on the idea, because if everyone isn't in, then this doesn't work.
That's wonderful. Also big props to Vassar for being willing to perform in the videos. Okay, let's see. I have a question in the chat here from Rachel. She asks, did the bowl between Christian and Vassar in trial and error have a performative or metaphorical function? P.S. Stunning plant collection.
Thank you. The bowl was a receptacle for the charcoal that I needed to use.
Lovely. And Rebecca asks, does it make you feel better as a mother to do these performances? Does it give you peace? The plant one just broke me.
Absolutely gives me peace. It's drawing from the family really fills me up. It's brought a sense of purpose to my work that where are the words? But besides, yes, like I have so much peace working with this family.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you started collaborating with your family? And I know when we spoke at the beginning of your residency, there was sort of like a larger arc to this going back to when you were a child, and sort of how that relationship developed.
I really enjoy now in my art practice using what I have around, and we're always together. Growing up, playing with my siblings and cousins, and the world of make-believe, and that's transitioned into my art practice of they are here, so I need you. And they really respond when I need them for something, but also will quickly tell me, no, thank you. I don't want to be involved in that. But it's lovely. I was able to perform in Homer at our first iteration of the Mother Show, and Vassar couldn't be there, but he was the audio for my live performance. And so even if they can't be there in person, they make sure that somehow they're involved in these performances.
Do you have thoughts about how that's going to evolve once Vassar is not living in your home anymore?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I know I have 2 more years to capitalize on him being here and wanting to be involved. And I'm so excited for him to go and start his own life. But I know 2 years I have left to do these performances with him. But he's building up a nice little CV himself. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. I look forward to seeing how the work changes as you both move through that transition. So one thing that we talked about that I thought was really great about your work, and also seeing you live from the garage and like running back upstairs in your house. I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about this ethos of making things accessible in your work, and what impact making work from home has had on your practice, and sort of how the pandemic played into that. And if you could just share a little bit about that.
mm-hmm. It was during the pandemic when we decided to really capitalize on the garage being there, and wanting to make these videos and deciding, oh, that's the best backdrop. We wanted an industrial space, and so we repainted, shifted things in the garage, and all we have to do is pull the car out and we have a performance space that really works for us. And we're fortunate enough to even have a garage, and we don't have that much stuff in the garage, so we're able to shift to have this wall. But it really opened up the practice to make these videos. And we shoot our videos on an iPhone because we can take that iPhone anywhere and then shoot anywhere else.
And just in terms of like what you're communicating in the work, like why is that that technological accessibility like so important? I mean, because I think your work is very pared down. I mean, it's very simple, it's very direct. And I'm curious if there's kind of like a conceptual reason for that, other than that it's easy. It's easier in some ways for you all, but I know that you also have like fancy cameras and stuff, but you choose not to use those.
Yeah, choose not to use them all the time. We've spent years stripping back to what's essential, I would say, in our lives, how we care for people. And that's the work is about care, and we don't need to wrap it up and put a bow on it just to say we care. I love my fancy camera, but I can do this in the garage with a phone and be as successful. The phones on our cameras are amazing, so.
Okay, so I've got some more questions in the chat. Let's see. Rika is asking, knowing you work every day on your art, how did your residency differ from your focus on your work? I mean, it would be great to hear how this residency bolstered your work.
Bolstered. Sitting at the museum was maybe my favorite part, and I was only able to sit at the museum 3 days out of the 2 months. I made that commitment because I like to keep a consistent studio practice. But interfacing with people, I realize, is so important. Introducing myself to the public is so important. So that has helped bolster my work, is just interfacing with the public, because I would rather do it in person than rely on something like social media. But wait, hold on, Francesca, because I have to say, one of the best things was just passing information to you and Alex, and then you guys did the social media thing, because that's not my thing. And I was like, oh, this is really nice to have that aspect of like a connection that somebody else can do that for me.
Yeah, and I think, I'll just chime in too, since I worked with a lot of different artists on this program, like the virtual realm is a place that's really comfortable for some people and not so comfortable for other people. And I feel like what this residency provides is space for an artist to make in any way that is comfortable for them. There's no like prescribed outcome other than just doing a studio share at the end. So we're not asking for new work to be finished or made within a specific period of time, but it's more about this back and forth of sharing in the digital space. And for some people, that is a big learning curve. Some people are already like total pros at it. But I think it's more about like this informal space of sharing and doing what we're doing now and just kind of batting around ideas and talking to each other. So I like to think, I think that's one thing like you gained out of the pandemic was this like being home and making this performance space in your home. And I think one thing we gained at the museum was thinking about how we work with artists and how we can support projects that don't necessarily manifest and, like or final exhibition on the wall, being a little more fluid with our forms. So I'm curious, Myesha, and thank you everyone for your questions. Keep them coming. I love questions from the audience. They're more interesting than the ones I come up with. But I'm curious to ask you a little bit about ephemerality in your work. And, there aren't that many people working in performance up in Alaska, and it seems like performance is increasingly a focus of yours. And then also it comes out a lot in your Mother project, just the idea of asking people to donate things that they're not going to get back. I think that's a pretty sort of strong aspect of the project, because it requires a huge commitment on the part of the giver to just like truly release these things. So I'm curious how you work with ephemerality, like why that's important to you. Yeah.
I mean, not to make it so serious, but we're all going to die. We're not going to be here forever. And so I really lean into this life for me isn't forever. And so I'm leaning into these moments that what happened downstairs, it's over, it's done. Y'all saw it. That's it. But the feeling stays for a while, and then somebody will forget that this happened, and that's okay.
Well, it'll live on Facebook until all the servers melt. Yeah, I think about that a lot too. I think there's a lot of things in our culture that urge us to believe that things last.
Yeah, we want to hang on so tight, but I mean, this work is just, it's okay to go through the process, and it's okay to let go. Caretaking is such a ultimate process of letting go, especially of our children.
Yeah. Also, we have Adele chiming in here. She said, nay, it is forever on Facebook now, Myesha. Yeah. Well, I think that's a really beautiful and a way that your work challenges us to see and think and be, that's important, because we don't have many opportunities to do it in day-to-day life and in our society. Maybe talking about this letting go and the challenge of letting go, particularly as a mother, would be a good time to talk about your work as an artist from the position of motherhood, and excavating all of the feelings around this, and to maybe share a little bit about other mother artists that you've been in collaboration with, and upcoming projects that I know are in the works.
Yeah, I have the pleasure of being a part of a artist mother group. We started meeting, let's see, maybe this was 2021. I believe we started meeting on Zoom just because it was overlapping conversations that were happening about making art that was either about being a mother or just creating art as a mother artist. And organically, we knew that something was there. And so we had our first show entitled Mother in Homer, December 2022, this past December. And we will have another show at the Bear Gallery this coming September. It's what's the word? Invigorating, working with these women. I challenge myself more to really hone in on my creating process. But being a part of this group is what geared me to have a daily studio practice. And really just made me question everything that I was doing as a mother. And I'm doing this work from home because I want to be available. I want to be available for my child while he's here, because it's time is ticking. He's about to leave. So I'm trying to enjoy it, and I want to share that aspect of it through my work. Excuse me.
That's great. We have a really wonderful question coming in from Daryl. He says, as an artist, I'd imagine you create from your personal experiences to make art that means something to you. As a successful artist, you also have the task of creating art that others can understand and enjoy. I'm curious, how do you balance the two opposing forces to land in the sweet spot like you do? And I think this relates a little bit to something we talked about before too, about like your work in some ways seeming like it is for you and for your family, almost as this like diary or like record keeping of time. But it's also for people far beyond and outside of that family unit. So ultimately, wonderful question.
This work is about people who care about other people. I'm a mother, and so that's where I'm coming from, but everybody is a caretaker in some form. Everybody cares about someone, excuse me, in some form, even if it's just caring for yourself. This is self-care. This is about mothering. This is about my partnership with my husband. This is about the kind of family member that I am, the kind of friend that I am. And so I lean into somehow the audience can relate to that. Everybody cares about someone.
So you sort of trust the instinct that the more kind of, I mean, because you're talking about things that you can't really get more personal. I mean, marriage and motherhood, I mean, that's sort of the most interior layers of somebody's life. So you trust, is it fair to say that you trust that by going deeper into that specificity, there's always going to be something universal there that connects to the broader audience?
I think so. I trust if the audience wants to relate, the audience will relate. And that's the beauty in art. And also, it's okay if it doesn't relate. It's okay.
That's great. It's okay. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. I don't know if there are upcoming projects you want to share about or other things that we didn't get to talk about, you know, in the course of this Zoom that you want to share with folks, or any topics we haven't touched on.
I would love to share what I'm doing next.
Yes, that sounds great.
So yeah, we have some slides that will pop up. I will have a chance to share some alternative process in lumen prints with Vanessa Powell. This will be at Lunch on the Lawn at the museum. We'll be there together June 6th and June 20th. And then in August, I will do a family art class with lumen printing, but this will be specific to ephemeral art making, because this is just asking people to make these really beautiful images and let them go. The more a lumen is exposed to UV light, it will eventually overexpose and disappear. And I love what happens in the conversations that are started when people realize, oh, I'm about to make this really beautiful thing and I can't keep it. And it's okay. It is okay that we can't keep everything.
I love that. I need to go to that class. That
yes, you should come.
That's great.
In September is the Mother Show at the Bear Gallery in Fairbanks. And I will have pieces from my Share the Load project. I will be doing a live performance on the opening night. And I will have a time-based video performance that will play the entire month. And I will also be at the Bear Gallery before the closing, collecting in person from any mothers that want to drop off items there. And then June 2024, Christian Freet, my husband, and I will have a joint show at IGCA in Anchorage. And I'm really excited about that.
I love the visual for that one. That's really great. Well, let's see. I have a couple of little just open-ended questions that, you know, I like to use this opportunity also to ask more informal questions that aren't so work specific, but because I know that you do have this very intentional daily studio practice, I'm curious to hear a little bit about what happens when you feel stuck or blocked or are running out of ideas, and sort of what are your practices around staying engaged?
Well, I told you about this once before, but I no longer believe in feeling stuck or blocked. If nothing is happening, I just shift over to something else. I don't try to force things anymore. My practice starts with talking to another creative friend, which is, I've gotten into this lovely practice of emailing Rika Mao, who is an amazing artist in Homer. And I really look forward to starting my day talking with somebody creative, lighting some incense, playing some music, and then creating. And if it doesn't work, then I go take care of my plants, which is also a creative moment for me, or I go take care of the garden, or I'll go run. And that is when ideas for me generate. So I call it a studio practice, but my studio practice is quite broad. I'm trying to make my life my studio practice now, because those ideas are constantly coming.
I love that. I think that's such a sort of human and generous way to think about a practice. It reminds me of a friend of mine. I think I shared this with you before as well, but once we had finished art school and I went to visit her a couple of years later, and she was just so depressed because she was a photographer and she hadn't been producing.
Yeah.
But then I was in her home and it was like, I was like, oh, this dish is beautiful. Where does this dish come from? Oh, I made it. Oh, this pillow's beautiful. Where'd you get this? Oh, I made it. And she was like dyeing fabric and making dishes and doing all this other stuff. And I was like, you're not stuck. You're not like, you're still making work. Like this whole idea of that we have around certain standards of productivity, I think is really harmful. So I love that you have jettisoned that in your own life. Do we have any other last questions from the audience? There's a lot of enthusiasm for the IGCA show and folks saying hi. So you'll have to go through and look at the comments once we get off. But if nobody else has anything, I think we're good to wrap up. Myesha, it's been a real pleasure having you as an artist in residence. And thank you so much for so generously sharing new performance work in an untested format. It was such a treat. And
I really, really enjoyed my time getting to know you and Alex, and just working with the museum and having the opportunity to even throw these performances across the web.
Well, it's really wonderful. And be sure to thank Vassar and Christian for us as well. They did a wonderful job. And I was thinking about them carrying all those plants back up into the house. So.
Yeah, we'll have to do that later.
Yeah, well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time and your vision.